Force on Force features the largest and strongest outdoor military organization in the country. These are the men and women who make it possible to enjoy the freedom to hunt and fish. It is with great pride that we bring you Force on Force podcast, coming to you from the Force on Force Talk.
Hey, welcome to the Force on Force podcast. I'm your host, Shawn Dalrymple. We're here in the Tactical Operations Center. All our shows start in the Tactical Operations Center, and so does our podcast, the Force on Force Talk. We're having a lot of fun with this. The last couple of weeks have been really cool with some unique stories, especially last week with the West Point cadets. A lot of fun hanging out with those guys. And we've been trying to get together and do this show for a couple of weeks, and trying to get 4 people in the same schedule is kind of hard because we want to bring both teams in from the championship episode of the Force on Force ArmyBassAnglers TV show, and we've finally done that. And so that's kind of what we're going to talk about today. So we got Matt Hazel and Rick Bradley, which everybody knows by this point. They've won Force on Force Season 13 championship, and so congratulations to them. And then we got Mike Schnupp and Eric Metcalf on here. So we're gonna kind of unpack everything and some stuff. And so just kind of want to talk about how everybody doing, guys.
Fantastic, man. Doing good.
Yeah,
awesome.
I appreciate everybody getting on here. I know that it's been crazy. I mean, how crazy it is. Like me and Mike were literally together probably like 48 hours ago doing some stuff. Mike was here with Gemini jerseys at the college national championship on the registration night. And so we're all over the place for doing everything. And Matt is still active duty Air Force, and I know he is crazy as all get out right now doing stuff and going all over and getting ready to PCS again. And that's an integral part of what we do in the military, is moving around every couple of years. And so that's always taken a lot of time. So kind of want to talk about this episode and what it means, because for the first time ever, guys, we had the Air Force guys actually get their name on the trophy. And we knew this going into the final round because we had Matt on one boat and Mike Schnupp on the other boat. Well, what was kind of unique, this was going to be a fun episode and kind of give you guys kind of the background behind it, was Matt and Mike practiced together on the show. So it created a very dynamic deal that we kind of didn't talk about in the TV show, but kind of wanted to talk about that going into it. So we were kind of, wondering, how all that was going to unpack in the finals and everything like that. And then, I know not just that, but Matt and Rick really had a most consistent fishing throughout the deal. So I know that Mike, you brought the boat down there, and then Matt was practicing with you and him. And so, how did you guys kind of break that down going into the event itself? Like, how are you guys going to figure that part out going forward when you knew that you guys might be fishing the same thing? At some point, you guys might be fishing against each other.
I mean, we talked about it when we practiced, and it's like, look, dude, whatever we find, like whoever gets, like we found a fish on a bed, and it was like we didn't physically see it on the bed, but I think Matt on first day of practice got it to bite, and we didn't set the hook. And then I think we checked it again one more time, and it was still there. And that was one of the things, Matt and I talked about. It was like, all right, look, whoever goes out first, go straight to that fish. And we found another bed of fish in a different area where we physically saw 2 of those on beds. And so Matt, and we had this one little stretch too that we caught most of our fish on throughout the show and whatnot. But like I said, it was one of those things where we were just like, all right, dude, like, so second go here. And the one that we finished, I think we both beat it pretty hard. Ask Eric, when I got to the one spot, I caught that one on the bed, like within the second cast, I think. And then we went to these other areas, and I didn't touch that other bed and fish. And I think we caught like 1 or 2 in that area. And I was like, all right, dude, we're leaving. And Eric was like, what? Like, we're catching fish. I was like, no. Like, we got to go. Like, cause Matt's about to fish next, and I'm not going to burn this up for him. And so we left, and we just started basically fishing all kinds of different water. And so that's how we knew it was going to, I should say we knew it was going to end up us in the championship. But I mean, we knew we had a good shot. And so if we just managed those fish and just kind of, you know, worked it out between us, and Matt and I are good buddies, and you know, if it was to be, you know, well, if it was going to be somebody else to win than me, I definitely wanted Matt to win. So
For you, Matt, I guess the hard part of that was you were boat hopping the whole time. You know, you were like not in. You didn't have your boat down there as the pro, and so you were boat hopping, and so you were getting a different boat, and so you were trying to manage all that stuff. And so, how did that kind of work out for you?
Yeah, no, definitely. It was a challenge. I think it helped me in the long run. It kind of limited what I brought with me, what I was able to use. Kind of figured some stuff out in practice. But that cold front came in, so it was real nice. They were biting shallow off the cypress trees, and then that cold front came in, and then they weren't. So I kind of knew I had to switch it up a little bit. And I knew Mike was fishing before me, and I knew he was going to be hitting the water hard. Not hard, but I knew what spots he was going to be hitting. So I kind of had to alter my game plan going into the afternoon to switch it up a little bit. And we did have some luck in practice, a little deeper, throwing that crankbait. So I was like, you know what, we're going to start with that. And then I could see them on the graph. So I knew they were down there and they had pulled out a little bit. It was just a matter of getting them to bite, which is a little challenging. But overall, yeah, I think it helped. Switching boats, it was you know, it took my mind off of other things and worried about where my stuff was and what I was doing with it, and making sure no one was sabotaging me and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I know. I think that was kind of. We'll talk about the whole sabotage thing in a minute, but nobody got sabotaged. But there was something funny that happened that was more like self-inflicted sabotage on one of the boats. But kind of want to bring.
He's
Eric.
breaking up. I can't hear you. Sorry, he's breaking up.
Yeah.
Let's get into that for the record, right? Like,
yeah. So we'll ask Eric, since his part of it. You know, Eric. So what happened on the second round you guys fished on your boat?
I know where you live, Eric.
So anyway, we came out of the little river there, or the little launch spot. Everything's going good. We're smiling, having fun, laughing, getting ready to go. Mike throws the throttle to it. The whole back of the boat sinks down into the water. He lets off. Huge plume of water comes up through the vent in between the two of us. And he says, "What the hell's wrong with my boat? It won't go. It won't go." So he tried it a second time. And at that point, it became very obvious that the plug was not in the back of the boat. And it was epic. You know, it's funny. I didn't even think to look because it wasn't my boat. You know, like I didn't even think. I just assumed that, you know.
So it's funny because, so Mike and I drove down together with the boat, and he was dealing with some knee and back issues.
Yeah.
So I was like prepping the boat every day before practice, like getting it ready, making sure the plug was in, and taking care of all that stuff. Well, come day 2 when we were filming and we got split, I got split into a different boat. So I was responsible for a different boat, not Mike's boat. So I'm assuming he just overlooked it or forgot to put it in.
It didn't even cross my mind. When I put my boat in, I have a routine. I walk a certain way around it. I turn certain things on. I have a routine. I didn't even think. I'm like, it's not my boat. I'm just, all right, we're good, you know? And that was the start. I mean, that's just one thing that happened.
Yeah, that was
on that.
Yeah,
that episode was brutal.
Yeah.
So to say the least.
So they, the little bit of history behind it. There was a point where some in Force on Force history that people kind of mess with the boats and everything like that, and or mess with people's rods. So for him to have it happen to himself was actually pretty funny. It was nothing that anybody did. He just did it to himself. It was all self-inflicted. Right. And so that kind of started. It kind of started things, and it kind of sent things haywire on that boat for that day. But it was just
then we hit the water and his graph died.
Yeah, I probably
you put out running graph died.
You put all that water in the boat and mess with the connections and everything else. I mean, you fill a boat completely up with water like that. It takes its toll on it. So, I'll ask Rick on this one. Just talk about a little bit because you guys are in being partnered with these two. It's really a unique dynamic. Kind of worried about how the fishing parts kind of worked out, but it worked in you guys' favor to actually fish new water like that, and it just was. How did you kind of see it from your perspective?
Well, I mean, we didn't have massive bags of fish, that's for sure. I mean, that cold front really messed up that lake, and to be able to get what we did for 3 rounds, I mean, we were really, really lucky. And I was worried about Matt. Every night when we come back after filming, Matt would be freaking out in the hotel. Man, I wonder where he's going to go. Where Mike's going to go. And poor Matt was just stressing out like crazy. And then, they had talked and made an agreement. And, it's challenging, especially when you're fishing against, your buddy, your best friend, and a guy who you went out and practiced with. And then you got to figure out, crap, I need to move on in this tournament. How is this going to work? We all know the same spots. And, honestly, that last fish that we had in the championship, the one where Matt tackled me and I ended up going into the driver's console, that fish was going airborne. I mean, it was airborne, and we both jumped on it, because if it wasn't for that fish, I mean, we were both sweating it out like, oh my God, don't let that thing go. And I thought I broke my ribs on the driver's windshield there because Matt wanted that fish so bad. So yeah, at least I didn't get hooked. I would rather get tackled than get one in the ear, like poor Craig. But it's stressful. I mean, typically when you fish a tournament, it's 8 hours. I mean, you got 4 hours, and it's just crazy. And it changes the whole dynamics of fishing because you can't stay in one area too long, especially if they're not biting. And Matt and I made some key decisions. We fished that point that Mike and them fished, and then it wasn't turning on again, and we went right across to the other side. It looked really froggish. I told Matt, I said, there's got to be one in there on a frog, and Matt goes ahead and nails one on the worm. So, I mean, it was just the way it was. But we moved around, and if it wasn't for those 2 fish on that opposite side of that point, it would have been bad.
Yeah, I think you guys, the guys that typically win it, they always kind of figure out and make it, they're consistent throughout the river where they're kind of adapting, because that's what people kind of don't understand. We make it look like 7 days in that whole thing, but you're back to back to back, and you're trying to manage fish on that whole thing is hard. I mean, you don't kind of know whether to keep leaning on them in earlier rounds or because you got to make it through the earlier rounds, and you got to keep moving forward. And so that's a difficult decision to make. I mean, I've been there, done that a couple of times. So I know.
Well, I think the other thing too is like you said, do you want to save stuff? Do you want to do whatever? Like, I was trying to save stuff for Matt, and I know Matt wasn't trying to beat the stuff, so I could have stuff, and the thing is like that first round against KB, like they zeroed and we caught 4 or 5 fish, and it's like, dang, if I'd have known they zeroed, that first one I caught, I'd have basically went searching for new water. But obviously you don't know what's going on until you come in and you're at the talk, and you're giving your brief, and like I said, I was I mean, obviously I wanted to win myself, but I'm super happy for Matt. I ruined our chance at maybe possibly winning or really coming close by, I was boat flipping everything, because I mean, we weren't catching giants, and I felt confident enough. And then, we had maybe 2 hours in, not even maybe 2 hours into the championship. And I had one, and he bit in the same spot. I think it was the episode before he bit, and I kind of missed him, but he didn't feel the hook. And so we went back, and sure enough, I pitched right next to that cypress tree, and it did the exact same thing, went to the left. I set the hook, and I was like, oh man, it's a good one. And I'm grabbing it, and I don't know. I think Eric kind of looked for the net, and then he went back over to the boat, and I was getting ready to flip it up to him. And as I picked it up, somehow I don't know. It just wasn't meant to be. But you know, that fish came off, and I think Matt and Rick had like 2 pounds, like a little over 2 pounds, and not saying that this fish was, you know, the could have beat that, but it'd have been dang close. It would have made for some good TV for sure. But again, it wasn't our turn. You know, like the first episode, everything was flawless. You know, the second episode, you had the plug, you had the hook, I mean, it was like Murphy's Law on the second episode, you know, the semifinals and then the championship. I mean, it was an absolute grind. And like I said, I lost that key fish and, you know, I mean, like I said, it is what it is. It still stings a little bit. I'm not going to lie. I've been to 2 championships and lost 2 of them because fish came unbuttoned or I couldn't.
Well, people don't
lean into them
understand though
enough.
too. Yeah, what people don't understand too is the short time period that you have to fish and how it's back to back. Like you literally have 10 minutes to break, eat lunch, and you're on to a different round. And when you deal with something like the plug being out and all that stress of how that second round, semifinal round went for you, to go back on the championship, there was nothing to lose. And that's what scared me more than anything going into the championship round. Because I was like, all right, he got through that. Like now it's on from here. And I think Mike actually helped us win more than he knows. And why I say that is because in practice, our goal was for both of us to make the championship. We wanted to compete against each other. Because again, if I didn't win, there's no one, you know, I'd want to win more than Mike. But in practice, he threw this black Strike King finesse worm, and he only threw it like 1 or 2 times. He caught a little fish on it, and he set it down. And I didn't throw it at all. I didn't rig one up, nothing. And Rick calls it stress. I call it strategic planning, where I'm going through my brain and racking everything in practice that happened, where we were, what we were throwing, you know, how the conditions were changing, and how I could incorporate that into catching fish, even if it's a couple ounces. So my mindset went from going after the big ones to just getting a few ounces in the boat so we don't weigh in zero. So I started throwing that black finesse worm, and it was on. I think that's what we caught the majority of our fish on the whole tournament.
Well, yeah, except for the first round, we went back to back. We doubled up on that crankbait off that point.
Yeah.
And then we moved, but that was about it. The worm, I mean, I caught one on a that big old crappie was off that worm too. So I was like, holy crap.
Yeah.
And I gave Matt those worms too. I was like, here, dude, take them. Take whatever you need. Like, you know, so.
Oh, you should have seen us going through the ammo can trying to find the extras.
I think he sabotaged me because the semifinal round. So when he came off the water, semifinal round, or whatever it was, might have been his semifinal. He was still using my boat, and we told each other, he didn't really sabotage me, but you know, we told each other like, hey, dude, like his rods were in there, my rods were in there, whatever is in my boat, you know, he can have, and whatever he brought into my boat, like I can have, and I go to get in the championship, and I go to grab a rod. He's like, oh yeah, hey, by the way, I broke off that wacky rig on your rod. I was like, what? I was like, what do you mean you broke off? And so it was just, and it was the only one I had with that light of a weight, and so it was just kind of funny. I was like, yeah, he did that on purpose, you know, just messing with them, and so I thought that was pretty comical as well.
But it was good. It was real good. I think the best part though, so you know, we already knew how it kind of worked out, right? And because we're getting reports from the camera guys, and so I know coming into the talk what it's going to be, and so we kind of get to set it up. And so I walked over to Mike and Eric, and I said, "You stretch this out as long as possible, because I want to make them sweat it out in the talk in the championship round." Right. So we have Matt and Rick go first to kind of set it up, and you know, they give their thing, and you can, because I go back and I watch the video, them idling in, and you see it on their face. They just like, they don't think that they caught enough at all. Right?
Got enough. Yeah. 2 pounds is nothing in a tournament.
You know, and then so Mike, you start going through. I mean, you got this all elaborate like story about this fish here and this fish here, and you just see Matt's face over there, like I just see him like sinking down on the other side of the talk over there, and and finally when you tell that you, because I think you have like you had a 5-pounder follow to the boat too, and
Yeah.
but
Oh yeah, we saw it. I mean,
and when you told him you didn't want you knew anything, the look of like I think now was that he was happy to win, but the more like I can't believe you just did that to me and stressed me out like that was like priceless. Was the best part of that whole episode was like, hey, just messing with Rick and Matt on that whole thing to not let them know that they had won to the last possible moment was pretty cool to watch that because I've been there in that talk and I know like I mean man it when you go first and it's the championship round and then you got to wait on the other team to tell what they did, you're like,
Oh, it was nerve-wracking. That's why I fell to my knees. I was like, you got to be kidding me. We just won with 2 pounds. There's no way.
yeah, both times that I did it, we went first and didn't know if we had won. And the first time it was because we were a long way away. Second time we were pretty sure it was because we were fishing with the side to the other team, so we kind of knew. But first time, man, it was nerve wracking. It was the least amount of fish we caught the whole time. I mean, and somebody could have got lucky. I'm like, so that kind of worried me about it. So yeah, I know. How did it? It got to you. I can see it on your face, Matt.
No, so it was great. It was great. It was intense. I enjoyed every minute of it and every moment of it. It goes back to that second round when we were going back and forth, and he was giving me a hard time about the wacky rig and everything else, and I was giving him weights, new wacky rig hooks, and everything else, trying to re-rig it or for him to use and all that kind of stuff. But when he came in, he had the biggest grin on his face, and like I said, I know going out with everything he dealt with that day, he had nothing to lose. I mean, it was just a matter of time before he hooked into one because Eric and Mike are both hammers, and I knew they were going to get on him and put something in the boat. Lucky for us, Murphy's Law, was on their side. So yeah, I was very fortunate. But again, I never knew for sure with Mike. And when he came in smiling like that after the day he had, I'm like, oh boy.
You're like, that kind of takes it away. The other part of our show is a big staple. I know we talk about is the military moment and in the championship round. Probably one of the best ones that we had in the whole season. We always have, a couple, one or two. We had a couple this year that were really cool to tell the story. But I know that Eric there told his military moment in the championship episode, and I don't think he was kind of prepared for what that was going to be like doing that on camera. And then we always joke about that those things kind of bring out the raw emotions, what it's like to be in service and everything like that. How was that, Eric? And I mean, you just kind of broke down because you talk about your grandfather and World War II and all that stuff and everything like that.
So that was we filmed that, I think, while Matt and Rick were holding their trophy and being all happy about winning the championship. Mike and I are over on the side, finally filming our. So 8 hours, 2 episodes of fishing, my first tournament ever. I'm emotionally just drained at this point, myself earlier in the morning with the hook and all that. And so when it finally came time to film the moment, it just, I don't know, I was spent, and it just all boiled up, and my grandfather's service is really precious to me. And that was for real. I mean, that's when I truly felt like I was away. But he always, he never talked about his experiences until I came back from Desert Storm. And then he opened up to me, never opened up to my dad, never opened up to my uncle. So it meant a lot. And I think being in front of that camera, and having the day that I had, just a grind of a day all day from the time I woke up, it just all came to a hill. And I will say, you kept picking on me, crying in front of the camera and this and that. But when I actually watched the episode, I didn't think it was as bad as I thought it was going to be. You know what I mean? Like, I was still able to talk, kind of. So I thought I was bawling, but I guess I wasn't. Thank God.
It's not, and those are actually the good moments because we never joke around about sharing the raw emotion of the way we kind of feel. We always tell. I remember we did it hunting on the hunting show. We did it with one of the kids, and he was trying to Gold Star kids, and he had not talked about his dad passing away for probably 2 years, and we asked him some questions, and he didn't really want to talk. And I'd talked to him a long time hunting, and I told him right there with the camera, and I said, "Look, man," I said, "this is the whole deal." I said, "If you think there's not one of us that hadn't been on that camera, hadn't kind of shared our heart and broke down and cried on TV," I said, "it's none of us going to make fun of you." So it's not like it's happened to us all. It's just to get those good stories out there like that. That's kind of what makes the show from that perspective. I know we've had some pretty unique ones over the years. I mean, I even thought like Steve Jarrett's story that he shared about his wife being first time going. I thought that was really cool from a whole different perspective, because, we don't talk about a lot as sometimes as much as we should with the spouses and the dependents and everything like that, the stress that goes on from their side of the house. And so sharing that military moment is really kind of special. So anytime we get to kind of share those and those connections with the past and the present, and it kind of tells a story that needs to be told, because once they're gone, we don't get a chance to share them anymore. So I know that's really special, and I know that's something we've done a great job with over the years. I mean, that's what was, really cool, even in this format, to get to do it, man. With the West Point cadets last week, man, we got to hear an unbelievable story with one of the cadets, because I asked them like what led them to the decision to want to go to West Point. And they did. I don't think they were all sitting around there, and I don't think anybody, even Coach Messa, didn't even know. One of them's told Caleb's whole deal about wanting to go to West Point was he's a first generation immigrant from America to America. His dad immigrated here, and then he was born here. So he's the first one to go to college, and his dad convinced him to go to West Point. And his dad, you just listen to the whole thing and the impact of what his dad coming here and him really loving this country and convincing him to apply to go to West Point. It was just like, it really is the American dream. And like, everybody was like looking around, like in complete like awe, because we didn't know they didn't know the story, and nobody had really kind of asked them this question. And to be like, and to get that out and to share that with people was kind of unique and amazing, because everybody has a story, and that's what really makes us unique as a military, is all those different stories out there. Every one of you guys has a unique story, and we love the competition, we love all that stuff, but what I think brings it all together, Force on Force, is the fun we have sharing those stories when we're together, when the ribbon we give each other, because we all served at some point together. In the same parts of the country, same parts of the world. We may not serve at the same, exactly with each other, but we probably know somebody that we serve, we're 1 degree of separation from it. And so it's a lot of cool things we do. So I think that's what's neat about sharing those stuff. And now that we get to kind of do a little bit more on this podcast, talk about fishing and hunting, but we also get to talk about some other stuff, and just to talk about, I think, more of that perspective. We're going to do some more of that, as we continue to explore that down the road. Hey guys, I really appreciate you guys being with me, taking the time, everybody getting together. I know it was very special for Matt and Rick to win that championship, first time for the Air Force. You guys got to celebrate, got a bottle of Hotel Tango to go along with that, have your name's going to be in that trophy, and you get your rings, and that's going to be really cool to have. So I think you guys really amplify.
You know what's going to be even better, Shawn?
What's that?
Is when we run it back again next year.
Yeah. See, the smack talking's already started. See. Yeah. Everybody wants to be.
I guess I'm not on the show next year.
Yeah. Everybody wants to be. Everybody wants to be on that trophy the second time. So yes. So let's see. Hey guys, I appreciate everything. So if you want to know more about Army Bass Anglers, buck hunters, duck hunters, redfish, or hog hunters, go to forceonforcetv.com, and thanks for tuning in. Cool.
Thanks for listening to the Force on Force podcast. Join us next time as we dive into more topics from the Force on Force talk. For more information or to learn how to join the organization, visit our website at forceonforcetv.com.